Hello, and welcome back to another Tracker video, where today I am going to do everything I can to break the game or just do some crazy things with map decals added by Kerbal Constructs. So, my first experiment with map decals, I'm going to make one that's bigger than the planet and see what happens. I'm surprised at how well the game handled this. It literally just made the entire planet have flat terrain. There are no more oceans on Kerbin, and everything is perfectly flat, like Minmus's salt flats. I don't even know if they're salt, actually. Didn't they say Minmus is supposed to be glass or something? But yes, as you can see, Kerbin is perfectly flat. There's the crater, which I'm just going over there. You can see the mountains keep flashing in and out because the mountains, when you zoom out, show up, but when you zoom in, they disappear. You can see there's a floating comnet dish for the crater rim, which sort of shows the original height of the mountains before I flattened them. I noticed this strange coloured bit here, which I thought was a lake, but then I zoomed out and noticed that it's under a mountain. So I continued exploring. I tried to find the Baikonur Space Center, which unsurprisingly is just on flat terrain. Then I go over the desert. I find Mojave Sands. It's supposed to be like Mojave, isn't it? And I notice that the desert actually spans most of the way across the sea, going between the desert continent and the Kerbal continent. So that is the flat Kerbin experiment done. Time to do another experiment with a map decal. And this one, I'm going to try and make a pillar that goes all the way up into space, and see if I could place a craft on top of the pillar and walk around with a Kerbal and look down. So here is the pillar. You can see it goes very high up. I go back to where the mountains are to take a view from afar, and that thing is truly massive. So I get the coordinates of the map decal and I copy and paste them into the cheat menu to teleport there. And then I set position. I notice at this altitude it's invisible, and the plane exploded. So I guess it's not possible to place a craft on top of the pillar that tall. So I decide to shrink it a little bit, and I try again. I keep going down until it's just barely visible. I could just about see it. It's very translucent, transparent even. So I copy and paste the coordinates again from the map decal menu into the cheat menu and teleport myself. And the Kraken attacks when the plane touches down on the pillar, spinning the plane out of control. You can see the plane is now falling down the side of the pillar. So I try again. And as you can see, the Kraken eventually attacks again. And you can see the plane is now flying off the side again. So I try one more time with the gear retracted to see if it's the landing gear. And the Kraken still attacks. So I go into the map decal menu and I shrink the pillar a bit more. I shrink it down to 80 kilometers high, and then I teleport myself onto it again. There we go, I've teleported. Will I explode this time, or Kraken? And as you can see, the plane has landed on it intact this time. So I extend the gear again. And I notice the terrain up here is translucent, as well as there being a hole in the middle, which is the exact same bug I use for the monorail to do the tunnels. So you can see it's transparent at this altitude. So I get, I can't see the name from here, is it Bill or Bob Kerman, to walk on this tall pillar, and I go and plant a flag. Quite an interesting view up here. Probably not the best for a spacecraft in orbit, in low curve in orbit, equatorial orbit, as if you're orbiting below 80 kilometers, you're probably gonna end up hitting this. So here I am placing the flag on the tall pillar going into space. So I was testing the gravity there. So my next experiment, I am going to do the same thing I did at the beginning of the video where I made Kerbin flat, but I'm going to do it on Juno, where I can lower the altitude of the terrain so I can shrink the planet without the ocean getting in the way. So I'm just preparing the map decal. I set it to daylight so it's a bit more visible. There we go, and you can see I have successfully shrunk Juno down. The atmosphere looks very strange. So I shrink Juno a bit more. And then I go and place myself down on the smaller Juno. I notice the gravity down here is a lot higher. I'm experiencing 2 or 3 Gs here. So I think it's Bob Kerman out to walk around on this planet, on this shrunken Juno. You may also notice the terrain is invisible at this altitude, below sea level, 200 kilometers below sea level. And you can see he can hardly jump because of the gravity. Then I place the plane back on the pillar again that I placed, as the pillar allows me to see the planet. So I shrink Juna a bit more. You can see its poles are going orange now. So I shrink it even more. It's tiny now. So I'm gonna try placing a plane on this smaller planet, and the game freaks out slightly. So I place it and strange things happen. The plane is now upside down and it's falling downwards. So the plane has stopped falling, so I get Bob Kerman to go out of the plane to see what happens. And Bob just falls into the planet. You can see he's pulling more than 15 Gs. Bob is screaming now. And there's re-entry plasma. And then eventually Bob reaches the singularity in the center of Juna and gets ejected out of the solar system at more than 10 times, or nearly 10 times the speed of light. So I guess you could say I shrunk Juna down into a black hole and turned it into a black hole. Bob Kerman is very hot. He's got a temperature gauge on him and he was actually glowing. So I then do an experiment where I set the value of the altitude for a map decal negative. So I am now turning Juna inside out. Now this very much reminds me of what Games Links did in one of his videos. Games Links did it a lot better than this though, as his was actually semi-functional. But you can see I am somewhat managing to turn Juna inside out. And I am also experiencing the same problem as Games Links, where the terrain tiles keep disappearing. So I just make Juna even bigger inside out. And I just want to try and place a plane on one of those terrain tiles. And you can see I am now inside the pillar that I created. So I try moving my plane around, and the game doesn't really like it very much, because this happens. The game, or Vessel Mover specifically, is probably not designed to move something around a planet that has been turned inside out. So Vessel Mover freaks out. You can see there's terrain tiles above my plane. So I place down the plane out of curiosity, and nothing really happens, it just sort of falls down. So I do a few more things. I shrink it back down a bit. In a bit, you can see I'm trying to use vessel mover again to try and place the plane down on one of the terrain tiles, and the plane just explodes. So I shrink down the inside out planet, and I place the plane down. You can see vessel mover is not really working, it just slammed the plane down really hard. You can see there are terrain tiles above me and flashing terrain tiles below me. So the last thing I wanted to do with Juna turned inside out, so I wanted to try launching a rocket to see if I could hit one of the terrain tiles with a rocket. So I launched directly straight up. You can see the atmosphere looks very strange. And eventually all the terrain tiles disappear and I end up with just the original planet visible. And I never ended up hitting any terrain tiles, so I tried putting it into orbit, which resulted in this very inefficient ascent. So I tried putting it into orbit to see if I could orbit into one of those terrain tiles. But as you can see, the terrain tiles just disappear when I get close to them. So I can't really land on them. Maybe I'll try this again in the future. But remember, so yeah, this is the end of the video, so remember to dislike and unsubscribe, and maybe you won't watch the next video.